One of the biggest questions on people's minds who are professionals dealing with depression or anxiety is, should I share with my employer what's going on? And what I would share with you is that it's not necessarily as cut and dry as a yes or no situation. There's a couple different things that need to be considered. The first thing I'll share with you is that what I am not for is advocating for this mindset regarding mental health that unfortunately the majority of the mental health industry has endorsed to the detriment of patients and clients, that what they need to do when they're dealing with depression and anxiety is essentially try to wrap themselves in bubble wrap. Remove yourself from triggering situations, keep yourself from stressful moments, keep yourself from situations that are going to challenge you and test you. I do not think that that is helpful, because if you remove yourself from those environments and you can create for yourself a bit of a safety bubble, whether this comes in the form of leaving work or adjusting your work or having your employer change your assignment or whatever the case is, that may be the best thing for you, but it may not, because if your goal is to get out of a very truly toxic work environment in which you're dealing with a set of work conditions that very truly are detrimental to your quality of life, then yes, that may be worthwhile in terms of either speaking with the employer to ask for some adjustments or to change your assignment or what have you. But I think our society is kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, where we have this ethos out there that says, it's okay to not be okay, it's okay to take time, it's okay to just, essentially rest and be, in recovery mode. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people have taken what is supposed to be the key insight in that of take a beat, and they've taken that a little too far to say, well, maybe I should take a year off from work, maybe I should take a sabbatical, maybe I should quit school, maybe I should do those things. And unfortunately, when you look at what happens when people do that, almost always the depression and the anxiety gets worse, not better. Really what you're doing is you're mistaking the triggers of your work for being the symptoms, your triggers of your work being the cause, and that's not the cause. Your anxiety and your depression has become a conditioned emotional and cognitive response to your environment. And so there may be specific triggers going on in your career that bring that out. But very often what happens is, as soon as you remove yourself from work, you're going to find other things to be depressed about, other things to be anxious about. And that happens almost in every case that I've consulted with people on. So again, it's not as easy as, should I share this with my employer, or should I leave work, or what should I do? Because you need to take a couple things into consideration. The first is, if you speak with your employer about this, you may be able to get a little bit of a temporary reprieve on some of your responsibilities. And if it is really true that your anxiety is so short term that it has only popped up in the past couple of weeks with the addition of some new responsibilities on your plate, that may very well be a good situation in which you need to speak with your employer and say, hey, the amount of work I've got going on right now is it's too much. And if we can bring that back down, we'll be completely good. I'll be more than happy to deal with that, okay? Now that in itself is a very different situation than the majority of cases that I'm speaking about here, which is, if you've got a systemic pattern of anxiety, a systemic pattern of depression, then that's a little bit different. If you're speaking to your employer now and you're sharing with them that you've been feeling this way for a very long period of time, you need to understand what's likely to happen. The first thing to understand is, like I said, your employer may be able to make some accommodations for you, but that's not going to solve the problem. It's not that your work is the actual cause of your issue, even though that's probably what you might have gotten fixated on. I can share with you, it's just not. And when you leave work or you change your assignment, it's likely that that problem sticks with you. So just understand that you may not get the real solution you're looking for, even by taking action and speaking with your employer. The other thing to share with you is that unfortunately, when you do this, very often there can be professional consequences. Namely, you can be looked over for future advancement opportunities, because whether you like this idea or not, once you communicate to your employer that you're having mental health challenges, especially at work, that employer has to take that into consideration when they are contemplating who they're going to put in charge of further responsibilities. And if you're telling them that you're already having a systemic problem with the level of responsibilities you have now, they would be foolish of them to put you in a position where you'd have greater responsibilities, both for the health of the company and for your own health. And so you're very likely to get passed over for opportunities of advancement. The second major problem that you may run into is your employment may be at jeopardy. Now, I don't say that lightly, and I don't say that, I want to be very careful here because I'm not trying to paint with an incredibly broad brush. I do know that there are a lot of very conscientious employers out there who want to be accommodating, who would not seek to remove somebody, but I can share with you that if you are demonstrating a low quality of work, which is very likely if you're dealing with depression or anxiety at the workplace, and they now have an added belief that perhaps you just simply can't handle high pressure moments, then you could be in a position where your employment may be being considered as needing to be terminated. So I don't share that with you to instill a sense of fear. And by the way, if you've already spoken with your employer about this, I don't say this to share with you something that I think would cause you to get into a state of fear. I think you still have plenty of options, plenty of ways to remedy what's going on. But what I would share with you is the only real way to actually get this fixed is, number one, understand your work is not the cause. It is just a trigger for what is an underlying problem, a systemic pattern of depression and anxiety, unless this has become a very short-lived, immediate thing based off of a small adjustment in the environment. So, like I said, a brand new project gets on your plate and this is the very first time you felt anxious, then great, talk to your employer. But if you've been dealing with anxiety or depression for months, this is maybe something that you need to approach by getting a real proven process to really handle the problem. Because your employer, as much as they want to see you succeed, is just not your therapist, counselor, or coach. They're just not going to be able to help you actually get this thing solved. So you need to make some new decisions to get access to some new tools. And that's the only way you're really going to beat this. Speaking to your employer is probably not really going to help you that much if you're dealing with a systemic pattern, and is usually not the best idea for most people. So I hope this serves you. If you have questions or concerned about your own specific environment, please comment below, shoot me a message. I'd be happy to provide some advice for you and share with you what I'd recommend in your specific situation. Obviously, for these videos, I have to paint with a little bit of a broad brush, and I hope you appreciate that. But would be happy to dig into your specific situation and see what would make the most sense for you. So take care for now, and I'll see you in the next one.